All right, thank you very much. All right, good evening, everybody. I would like to call the September 18th, 2024 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7 p.m. In attendance, it's myself, Chairman David Gerstenhaber, Vice Chair Donna D., and Supervisors Jim Johnson, Don Dowling, and Betsy Odgers. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Jim Johnson will not be here this evening. Also in attendance are Township Solicitor Guy Donatelli, Stan Corbett is here, Township Operations Manager Jeff Eastburn, Township Controller and Office Manager Melissa Ortega, and Township Secretary Stacy Hollis. And there are about 7 members of the public in attendance. So with that, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so thank you very much. And now I'll open the floor to public comment. This public comment may include any comments relating to tonight's agenda items. Commenters must state their name, whether they are a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer of the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Do we have any public comment? Okay, not hearing any. Let's move on to approval of minutes.
Okay, thanks, David. So I would like to make a motion that the board approve the August 21st, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting minutes. Can I have a second for that? Okay. I think Betsy got that one. Okay, thank you, Betsy.
Got a buzzer.
Yeah. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Reports. Okay, I'd like to start the reports by introducing our wonderful friends at the Avon Grove Library. I just want to say that we did another story time in the park this year, and it was extremely successful. It had more kids than last year. Happy with that. And we've also worked with the library about the Borrow the Backpacks program, which was Dave's great idea about putting together backpacks. He can tell us more about that. And he's also been doing some things that I've been going to, and there was a program on rain gardens through White Clay Watershed. And there was also one last night on natives versus invasives, which I went to. So we're going to try to work together to do some more plant workshops and things up at our healing garden. And I promised some of the older kids a class on bees and butterflies and stuff like that. So we're working on it. But Shelley McCoy is our Franklin Township representative to the board. So I'd like to let them have the floor.
Good evening, and thank you very much, Dawn. As you've alluded to, it's been a very, very busy year for us, and before the rest of the year gets away from us completely, I just wanted to thank you for your support, which has made everything possible, but also just give you an update of what we've been doing and how we are connected to not only Franklin Township, but our communities on a wider field. So I'm going to give you some facts and figures in 6 different areas, the first 2 of which are specifically related to Franklin Township. First of all, number of library card holders in Franklin Township. We went from 887 card holders locally in 2022 to 904 last year. And as of June the 30th this year, we had 952. Total number of items borrowed by Franklin Township residents, we went from 9,300 in 2022 to 9,917 last year. And at the midpoint this year, 6,827. So we're on course there. The next 4 figures are on a wider scale. Number of library visits overall. Last year, 78,958. We were at 52,081 at the end of June. Total number of programs last year was 766 and 350 at the end of June. Total program attendance, we went from 5,000 in 2022 to 10,300 last year. and we're at 3,700 at the end of June. Total number of computer uses, last year, 7,500 and 3,890 at the end of June. So I think you'll agree we are, as Dawn said, well connected and on course for a good year for us. I really appreciate your help. Without your help, it wouldn't be possible. And so,
Would you mind if I ask a question? Because I checked these numbers out when I was preparing for the meeting, and I noticed that if I look at the 2024 numbers, for this stuff, for the things that were done half year, you can times it by 2. And the total program attendance seems to be a little bit on the lower side, right? If you take this 3,705 and times it by 2, maybe it's like 7,400. Do you have a sense why you're not getting, because you have great programs?
so difference in personnel. I had a new head of the head of our youth services department changed when a new person came in March. Actually, March of this year, our focus changed. There were some things that we stopped doing. For instance, we used to give out weekly grab and go craft kits. That was a holdover from the pandemic. That was costing us a lot of money. They weren't very popular. They counted as a program. So that was, every week we had 20, 30 kits to give out. When we took them away, that was 20, 30 things less. We changed again, we chopped and changed a few things. So that's why, there were some programs that were done regularly that weren't attracting people. So we changed them. So that's why I would say it's really a reflection of quality over quantity, to be honest with you.
And I would like to interject. I have met the 3 new ladies and they are spectacular. And they've come up a couple times to story time, and the programs they're doing and the new advertising is tremendous. And again, the library was at the Fall Festival and was very well received.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. If I may just add one more thing, you may know this already, but we are now a passport acceptance facility. So we are able to accept and process application or first-time applications for US passports, as well as take pictures as well, and for renewals as well. We can't do the renewals, but we can take pictures for them. So all the information is on our website, and thank you for your support. I'm going to turn the floor over to Shelley McCoy, our Board of Trustees, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you again after a year. I'm glad to represent Franklin Township on the library board. And I'm pleased to be the one to be able to announce to you that we're celebrating this year the 150th anniversary of libraries in West Grove. So we have many programs planned, including author events that go from October through January, of some very famous local authors who will be coming in to give talks. And then this celebration is culminating on Saturday, November 16th, where we'll have events during the day that will include things like magicians. And I think I just saw cookie decorating. We invited legislature to come in for photo ops. And so it's going to be a fun day. So I encourage any of you who are around on Saturday, November 16th, to join us at the library to celebrate 150 years of libraries in West Grove, which is a great accomplishment. And also throughout the year, come and join us for those great author events too. And let me know how I can help as your Franklin Township rep. Thanks.
Any questions? Okay. So one of the questions I always ask is, what can we do to help? We have Facebook pages and we have a lot of ways that we reach out. We have our newsletter. So, if there's anything that we can do, please let us know.
I think if I may just answer that, it just helped spread the word. I mean, I can't tell you how many people, we had people on Saturday. I didn't even know you were there.
Yeah,
And you know, West Grove is not that big.
no.
And so, but you perhaps you wouldn't be surprised, but there are many, many people who don't know that we exist, let alone half the things we do. So we really
Sure.
appreciate just getting the word out, supporting us on social media, as you said, and just by word of mouth. That's really, I really appreciate Stacey accommodating us in the newsletter. So that's really what will help.
Yeah, I'm always surprised by the number of kinds of programs and services you provide. When I was a kid going to the library, it was you go there to get books and then you leave. And then you forget to bring it back and then you get fined.
Right.
And now that's a small part. It's
Right.
almost like a community center, really.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's
Yeah.
really exciting. So, all right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
So I can take on Jim's. All right, so now we get to the treasurer's report. This is a comprehensive monthly report of the township financials for the month of August 2024 and year to date. And we have Melissa to read the treasurer's report.
Good evening. Good evening. The August 2024 Treasurer's Report includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $110,343.23. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $5,733.76. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $5,350.16. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $0. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $0. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80. Leaving a balance in all funds totaling $2,742,352.77.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. I ask this, I think, every time it comes up. Where is our fire hydrant?
So we have 16 hydrants all throughout the township.
Okay, all right. I didn't realize we've had 16.
16.
Okay,
And I think we might gain more with Lexington Point.
okay.
Stan, maybe?
Yes, yes, you will.
Yeah. So right now we have
16.
16.
Okay. So I make a motion that the board approve the August 2024 treasurer's report as presented by Melissa Ortega. Yeah.
Second.
All right, thank you, Donna. All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Betsy.
I have the zoning officer's report. This report was compiled by the Township Zoning Officer, Mark Gordon. The month of August 2024, there were 12 permits issued. That brought in $9,673.08 in permit fees, $0 in miscellaneous fees, $0 in recreations and open space fees, and $0 in impact fees were collected. There were 31 inspections performed. You're welcome.
All right. And so now we'll go into our reports we'll start off with our Franklin Township's Franklin Sportsman Association report. Mark.
Hello. The September report. We had a turnover of 6 members this year, so we're at 35 members, but we have 6 new members, and they will all complete the archery proficiency test if they archery hunt, or the firearms if they firearm hunt. So some of them have completed their archery proficiencies already, and all members, old and new, must do a service project before hunting. So hunting hasn't started yet. It starts Saturday, the 21st, and runs to archery runs from September 21st to November 29th. And then it opens again the day after Christmas and runs to the January 25th. Firearm season opens November 30th and closes December 14th, and opens again the day after Christmas, December 26th to January 25th. In preparation, all of the properties, Bamshire, Franklin, Goodwin, and the White Clay Crescent, we've updated the trailhead signs. We've updated the maps and the hunting dates on the trailhead signs. And Franklin, we put the stakes with along the perimeter saying that hunting's going to be ongoing. So we're ready for the season to start Saturday. Harvest report, it hasn't started yet, so we haven't harvested any deer yet. Service projects, community service. Last year, we had 316 hours for the last hunting season, July 2023 to June 30th of this year. And so far this year, July of 2024 to September 10th, we have 56.5 hours. So some of the things we've done, we cleared 2 trees from cross and entrance. We refinished 8 picnic tables for the fall festival. That was a good one. We had a great turnout for the Crossin Trail and Franklin Trail cleaning. Very good turnout. And some Bamshire mowing and trimming. The 56.5 hours doesn't include the hours we put in at the fall festival. We should have a good showing for that. We had a good turnout, and it was a good day for everybody. So yeah, so I think we're off to a good start.
Thank you, Mark. I have a question. So archery, I know what
Yeah.
it's bow and arrow.
Yeah.
When you talk about firearm hunting in Franklin Township, what firearms are permitted in Franklin Township?
They're limited. You can't use a rifle. You can use shotgun or what they call straight wall cartridge, like a pistol cartridge that has limited range.
Okay.
Yeah, we follow pretty much the Game Commission rules. So in Chester County, you're limited on what firearms you could use.
Mhm.
It's typically, if it's not suburban, but if there's houses and stuff, they usually can't use high powered rifles.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the firearms allowed.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, not a question, but Mark, I'd like to thank you guys so much for all your help on Saturday. It was awesome.
It was a great day. Everybody loved it.
I think we have to swap these two.
Can I do something?
No. I gotta get control of myself. So now we get to the Park and Recreation and Open Space Board report. Mary, you're on.
Oh, hello. My apologies for not being there in person. It's not a pretty sight.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so Dave, did you want to start out with the map? I know you had said that.
Yeah, let me do that. Let me see if I can figure out how to get all this working. So eventually you should see the map. There we go. How does that look on everybody's screen? Can you guys see it okay?
Looks good from home.
Okay. Now it's getting crazy. All right. So, one of the things that at least when I joined the board, this was kind of a pet project of mine. I wanted to at least have a well labeled trails, and I often found myself going through the woods, and then I'd end up in the swamp, and I had to drag my bike out of the mud, and which was not great because I was trying to introduce my young children into mountain biking, and I'm like, this is fun, and I'm pulling my bike out of the mud. So that kind of became a pet project of mine, and so many people started to get on board, and we had a really awesome team to put these trails together. Matt Thompson, who's here with us, has done an amazing job. I mean, even when we started, we had some skeptics, and I think now that we see what you do and how well these trails go in, they're beautiful, and people really enjoy them, and we got a lot of good feedback. And then I'd also first thank Mary for this map. And so what you're looking at is our Franklin Township's trail system for Franklin Preserve and Crossin Park. And so we have 4 trails. We have a red loop, which is our longest route, a blue route, a green loop, and a yellow loop. And each one of these kind of represents different levels of difficulty, different distances, different kinds of areas to explore as you're either, walking or riding a bike or however you want to enjoy the trails. And so where we're at now, I think there's still a couple of little pieces that we need to finalize, but this is what the trail is going to be, right? And the reason we have these colored trails is to indicate that if the trail has a color, these are the trails that the Franklin Township is going to focus on and maintain. There's other trails in here that were pre-existing. They exist, but Franklin Township's not going to maintain them. So for example, we have a trail that comes out here and you can end up in Paradox, right? So you can actually start at Crossing and go up to Paradox. There was some talk about having a wine festival where you can go to Franklin Township, start at Crossing Park and walk up to Paradox or whatever. We're not necessarily going to maintain this trail, right? This is not really part of the official trail system. It's there, it exists. And if someone's walking along and wants to clear something out, that's fine, but we're not going to be doing any maintenance. Similarly, when we were talking about when you make a good trail, the first and foremost, it should be enjoyable to walk along. And we had a couple of trails that just simply weren't enjoyable. One, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but a lot of the trails really dumped you down into this wooded area along the creek, and that's wet pretty much most of the year. It is a wet, boggy mess, and a lot of people found themselves down in there because our trail system sent you down in there. So all those trails are gone. Nothing is down here. And the coolest thing maybe about what we've done is we reestablished Old Post Road, which is a historic farming road that hadn't been used. But now we have a much nicer walking trail that really didn't need to do much work. It's easy for me to say because I didn't do any work. But it's a very nice historic trail. It was already there, and now it's nice and dry. So a lot of good things. There are a couple of trails that were difficult. One was down here where this new little loop is, which was just straight up and down. And there's lots of problems when you have a straight up and down trail. First and foremost is it erodes. You basically becomes a washout. And then secondly, they're just not enjoyable walking straight up a steep hill. And a lot of these straight trails that I'm showing here, they still exist. There's some reason that the township might actually want to keep them because we can get a gator down into there. So if we need to get someone out or if we need to fix something like a bridge, it's nice to have these gator trails. But we don't want people necessarily running around and on these gray trails. We want them to follow these green loops. So
Dave, the trail that right where your cursor is now, you said it's like, is that done? Is it going to be done? I know it's on the official map. So
yes,
you want to get it done, but is it there yet?
So this is going to be done. However, if someone finds themselves here, instead of this little loop, this gentle loop, they're just going to end up going straight down into
until it's fixed.
So, some, behind the scenes, we were talking about what we meant when we about this loop. So we were talking about, is this a new trail? Is it not a new trail? It's really a fixed trail. We're just moving the straight up and down access trail, really. And making it gentler so you can actually enjoy walking down it. And it's the one connector to the lot, right? So if you want to get to the startup here, you can get into our trail system.
So Matt, is this going to be hard to do? I know you probably already have it in your head. Wherever you want.
So I went out there today and actually marked out that trail. I didn't cut anything down, but I put pink ribbon up there. And it really does not diverge much. Like I go back into the existing trail a couple times. It's like maybe 3 or 4 switchbacks to get you up kind of little kinder, little gentle.
I think this looks a little bit more extreme than what it is.
It's not, it would be very seldom. I think like 3 times I come back and actually utilize, 50 feet of the existing trail. So I'm not really changing much. I'm just doing just changing.
So do you know when it will be done or I know you're busy, but I don't mean to put pressure on you.
No,
Give me a great amount.
I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks, like,
Yeah.
we'll see.
And I think the other really important thing is, we had the Eagle Scout project in Franklin actually labeling these trails. So that you're on the red trail, you're on the blue trail, you're on the green trail. And so we're going to extend that philosophy to the rest of the system. So if you're on the green trail, where you are and how to get back out. And so this is the trail system. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we want to talk about for this trail system. But I'm ecstatic. I couldn't be happier with the outcome. We got a lot of positive feedback from our Franklin Township Fall Festival that, again, I think you were saying, Matt, that people didn't even know there was a trail back there, and now they're walking their dogs and they're really enjoying that outdoors there. So that's what we have the park for. And we're excited to see people using it. So I think that's all I had. I don't know if there's any comments or questions from the board on where we're at with the trails. And
I have a couple things I can add.
sure, why don't you take a mic?
Okay, so like I said, that one trail is marked out, nothing's cut. We also had another little section up by the parking lot to the right. There's that little bit of section there, it'd be in the green. And you have the 2 gray trails that kind of create that T, and that little green spur that we were going to add in. That's also ribboned out too. I mean, we're talking, I don't know, 100 feet or something like that. So
That's a good point. So this was one of the things that we changed from the original. This trail is straight up and down. So the trail went this way, that way, this way. We just said, well,
it just finishes off that green loop. It makes it a little nicer. So part of that, and I'd like to see if it'd be possible, I could get my hands on a piece of equipment to get in there, but I need kind of permission from the board. It would be a very small skid loader to come in. Well, it actually, I need it more for the other end, the south end down there, because that's a little bigger project. I'm just getting old and it would really help. Yeah, I'm getting tired. So.
And you're going to be bringing the equipment.
Yes, exactly. I just need kind of approval to say that everybody's fine with it. Yes. So
Okay.
We get you a tag, Jeff gets you a tag.
email will suffice. So that would be good.
Matt, I will certainly work with you.
Okay.
So let's keep in
Okay.
touch.
Yep. Okay. And another thing, I know I had mentioned it before. Velomia has put in for a grant to get some money to repair a couple of the bridges in the park. So like the big bridge on the red loop. Yeah, you were close. Yep. So the big bridge, there's a lot of the boards on there are rotten. I think all the decking just needs to be ripped up, redecked. Who knows when we get in there, what's underneath. But so anyway, so that bridge, and then the bridge going over to Paradox, it has always been talked about building ramps on either end because now they're just steps. Ramps, I think, would be better personally. So that is all part of this grant. Also, going back to the big bridge, we might lose that bridge. So in that grant, I put in like a Traxel load of riprap that maybe we could put at either end to kind of shore that bridge in. So it's a no match grant. So it's just, but we might not know for a couple months if we get it. So I'm just waiting to hear back from that. So, I think that's about it that was kind of the big stuff.
So just a comment, if we don't get the grant, we should think about how much it's going to cost for us to do it. I mean, I do the grant, right? That's
Yeah.
But we don't want bridge is falling apart.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the issue. They are going to have to be maintained, but let's see what this grant, let's see what we get.
And there's a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but there's several green grants out there that might be applicable here, because it's a park improvement.
Yep.
So there's usually some options where we can fix, because I agree that that bridge is falling apart. A lot of those bridges are.
Yeah, I mean,
touching.
they get beat up, so it's, it's just time.
Yeah.
So,
I thank you, and I appreciate I can't say this enough. I really appreciate the work that you put in and the time. I certainly wasn't expecting you to go hunt for grants to do park improvements for Franklin Township. So it's pretty awesome that you're doing it. It's a great thing, great service. So thank you.
Well, and that's a great segue for me to say, you were a king for doing that race on the Saturday morning. That was over and above, and it was awesome. And tell us how many people and how it went.
We ended up with, I think, 39 runners. 2 people brought their dogs on a leash and ran. One guy ran barefoot, which is what he does. That's his thing. He liked it so much he ran a second lap. But yeah, tons of positive comments. Lots of people that really had no idea that the trails even exist, and there were so many comments like, "This is such a beautiful park," and so it was good. So. Really.
Well, you make us really happy.
Well, hopefully next year we can like triple the number. So
One of the things that I'd heard from a couple spectators, they really like the trails. Big kudos for the board for allowing bringing the trails up to snuff and clearing them, and much better maintained than the ones at Fair Hill, I'd heard, at Crossan Park and Franklin Preserve.
in Fair Hill's defense, though, they have about 150 miles of trail. I got like 5. So
And thank you for talking loudly, because I'm hard of hearing and most people sound like they're talking in their own church. But the microphone is supposed to help. And if you whisper it, it still comes out like whisper. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. So Mary, I'll hand it. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to the trail system. I will read it. This trail map is something that Mary drew out for us. So, and I know I was probably driving her crazy with all the changes and details and what about this and that. So thank you, Mary, for putting up with me.
Absolutely.
So.
No, the only thing I want to say is this is pretty much it. Like, so if there's any style issues, let me know. But also the switchback area down in the southeast, if you just give me that data, I can easily just switch that out. So that's not a big deal.
What's not already there?
Oh, it's just she wants to make it more accurate to what's actually being.
So that's fine. I'll get in there and kind of rough it in and walk it, and I can send you that data just so it's just I can't get through it right now. So I didn't feel like
fine.
So, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. But no, other than that, on the map, that is that.
Okay.
All right. So on what date? September 4th, we had our pro meeting. Some of the old business we talked about was the meadow. We want to do the mini meadow, and Dawn had brought us up to date with that. So as of right now, as far as I know, we are still waiting on Weeds Inc. to come out and check out the location for our mini meadow.
That is correct. I thought it was going to happen last week. Well, that didn't happen.
Okay.
So you're trying to get a grant for this, right? We haven't made a decision.
No, we haven't.
You're still working on it, right?
This
Okay.
is just research.
Okay. Right.
This is research. He's going to come out
Yeah.
and explain the whole thing so we know a starting point.
Yeah, we're just beginning. All right. Memorial trees. So the one tree in Crossan, Jeff had contacted the original purchaser of the tree, and they want to pick out a new tree to be put in. Jeff, I don't know if you have heard anything of that, but as of right now, I know we are waiting on the owner to pick a new species.
We are waiting on the owner to pick a new species. I will be in contact with her, by the end of the year so we can line this up for spring. Right now, the nurseries don't have much stock, and she wanted to go back to her family and see if she wanted a white oak or something else. So I've got her number and have that in my diary.
So I just want to be clear, what is our policy? So are they paying for a new tree? Or we bought, like, what's, because I don't want to set a precedent unless we as a board agree a new precedent.
It had been talked about buying a replacement, but when I had talked to Miss Moon, the person who bought it, I said it would be significantly smaller than the one she had purchased. She was fine with that. She was very appreciative that I called her and that we even offered to do any sort of replacement because she knows that, there are some that just die, from disease, and it's just nature.
To be clear, we're smaller species.
Yep.
But this is not, we're not setting a policy that if a memorial tree dies, that the Franklin Township is responsible for replacing it.
Correct. I would imagine this tree, I have to be careful with pricing and inflation, but I'm thinking somewhere around $120, $140 next year.
From my perspective on this, we're not going to keep replacing trees in perpetuity. I think what we need to do as a board is think about, again, these trees aren't very expensive, but we need to decide, hey, if your tree dies, we'll replace one, but that'll be it. And I think the other thing that we need to think about is, again, trees will last for a very long time. So hopefully this isn't a big issue, but we also, what do we do if a tree dies in the middle of the park and there's a placard and memorial there and there's just a mound of wood chips? What do we do in that situation? Do we dig it up or do we put a bush there or we just pay I don't think it's going to be a big issue. I think the trees, you plant a tree, it's going to grow and it's going to be fine. So I don't think we're going to end up spending thousands and thousands of dollars.
Right, we need to agree as a board.
But we need to agree to a
Right.
board what we're going to do.
Right, and we have
Yeah,
not done that yet.
no.
This is a one-off case that we've talked, I
Right.
know I've talked to you personally, but seem reasonable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I
only
think
thing
that's,
about- I'm sorry, guys. It's so hard when I'm not in the room because I interrupt. My apologies. I just wanted to clear one thing up about the memorial trees is this particular tree was only about 2 years old.
yeah.
So it was very young and it was like just out of what our warranty was. So this is just kind of like a special circumstance. It's not intended to be a precedent center.
No, and I think the fact that this has happened so infrequently would be a testament that I don't think we really need a policy yet, unless there's a mass shortage. But we can talk about it if we want to, about what we want to do.
And I had talked to Miss Moon and her husband, and like I said, I will be in contact with her, but they are both very interested in coming out this spring to help plant it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, I can stop sharing now, can't I?
All right, next we are going on to new business. The volunteer day, you heard the gentleman from the FSA bring that up earlier. It was on Saturday the 7th, and I tried hard to get as many people out there as we could. It was definitely a majority FSA, which is awesome, but we're hoping to get some more public out there. The trails were definitely cleared up and ready for Fall Fest. Now volunteer day, we want to do this thing called Trail Days, which is the second Saturday of each month. We'll have like a location and we'll post it so that anyone who wants to volunteer can come meet us at Crossin to work on clearing trails, or say a tree is down in Banffshire. Okay, well, this Saturday we need help in Banffshire. So that's what we're going to try to do, is try to set up a recurring volunteer opportunity. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I think, well, one of the questions, and this was something that Jim had brought up, he sent us some notes. And one of the questions he had was, during active hunting season and people are out in the woods hunting, do we want to maybe think about another day? I think there's some Sundays where Sunday would be better than Saturday during hunting season, just so there's people. I mean, I guess if you're in Crossing, that's okay, but if
I
there's
would say that, I mean, there's too many church obligations on Sunday mornings would be my only thing. But I think if we just stay in Crossing, I guess, during hunting season, or maybe even just like set aside Bamshire or something for a morning, like, I guess we'd have to all just work together and try to figure that out.
Yeah, I think we want to think about that. Also during the hunting season, I don't know how much trail work we need to do. I'm not sure, but it's just some, I don't know what I don't know what the policy is or how we do it, but it's something I think we should think about.
If we knew we wouldn't hunt, if they would tell us, we would probably not hunt that day. But like you said, Sunday would be better. But I understand if it's Saturday, but if they give us an advance to tell our guys, hey, look, we're gonna be working,
These hours or something.
Yeah, hunt another spot, or if you're gonna hunt, just be ready to see people.
Yeah. Just I think that's reasonable, Mark.
And we might be able to do it by project. If we figure out a project that we're going to work on, then we can set aside a particular day for a project.
Yeah.
That might make it more cohesive.
Sounds like they want us to help too. I'm sure Bob would get involved.
Mhm.
Say if they want,
Yeah.
if they want more.
I just want to let you guys know I cannot hear the gentleman from the FSA. So
Mark doesn't have a mic.
So, I'm sorry. I was just saying the FSA would be. I shouldn't speak for Bob. Bob's our service project coordinator, Bob Magnus, but I'm sure the FSA would get involved if you guys want us involved with helping on that.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. With trail
Yeah.
days?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So trail days.
All right. Next, we were moving on to, we just had a budget conversation because we weren't sure exactly what happened to the budget, because back when we originally started in like 2020, we had one. And so Dave just explained that to us and we are all understanding now. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we figured it out and we are all comfortable. I'm assuming someone's going to go over Fall Fest later.
Yes, we have a Fall Fest is on
Okay.
the agenda.
All right, I'll skip that one. And then let me see. A couple more things. There's a lot this month. We're working on preserved farmland signs. Member Paul Overton is working on the wording for the preserved farmland signs.
You're gonna bring a proposal to them.
What was that?
Oh, my mic was on. I said he's bringing a proposal to the board. And part of that is these the sign wordings.
Okay, here's the what I have down is this private farm is permanently preserved by the owner through the cooperation of Franklin Township and the Chester County Department of Agriculture.
Yeah.
Does that sound?
Well, I would expect to see the sign. So
Yeah, so we're gonna
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I
yeah,
just wanted to check
so
the wording.
I would so Mary, probably the best way to do this conversation is once you have your sign concept, and then mock up something, then you can come to us and we can talk about the whole project.
Okay.
That might be the easiest way to do it. But
Okay.
so the thought is, townships, surrounding townships, when they preserve a piece of land, there's a little sign that says this private property is now publicly protected for blah, blah, blah. And it's very clear, which is I thought was interesting, was it says this private land has been preserved in perpetuity, blah, blah, blah. So, and it's just a kind of a way to kind of call out that this is something that's protected in the township or the county. So for example, one of the other farms that we did this year might be a county sign that says, in partnership with. So it's a neat idea, but we need to get the thing packaged up so it can come to us and we can talk about it.
Yeah, we're definitely just in the beginning stages. Beginning stages. I'm using air quotes. You can't see me though. So sorry. We had started on this a couple years ago and then we got sidetracked. So there are some mock-ups that I'll be able to share with you guys, just not at this given moment.
Thank you.
All right. Picnic tables. Thank you, FSA, for updating those picnic tables. And now our question is, can we steal one for Banffshire?
We're missing a.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's all.
There you go.
And then this is just a future project actually that we could do on one of the volunteer days, which is a kiosk at Banffshire to put the map in and the hunting stuff, as opposed to the old board that's there now. Paul has the kiosk, he has the wood, he has everything. We just need to put it up. And then the other thing with the kiosk at Crossin that the Boy Scout did, it is just, we wanted to let everybody know that it will be being fixed to prevent the water damage that you can kind of see happening already.
Yes, I had a nice conversation with
I believe it was Liam.
Liam and Ryan, so I would expect them to go out in the next couple weeks.
So Mary, I want to just back up. You were talking about replacing the board with a kiosk at Banffshire as you enter into the property. So we have something like that at Crossin now. Are you saying that Paul's ready to go to just build something and install it, and you're asking if we support that, or is that just something you're thinking about, and then Paul will come to a board meeting and discuss his proposal?
The kiosk itself, I'm pretty sure, is already built. So I guess we are just going to come and ask for permission to put it up.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how to do this. I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Well, let's just maybe have it if Paul can join us, we can talk about it.
And I have another Boy Scout mother that has an upcoming proposed Eagle project. So somebody came up and asked me I'm just saying.
Yeah, no,
if you
okay.
need another Eagle project.
Yeah, no, you're fine, Mary. I'm just not sure where Paul is at. So let's talk to him.
Okay.
You can talk to him, or we'll have a conversation with Paul and figure out what he's proposing.
Okay.
Yeah, he should bring it to the board. I'm sure it'll be quick. Just show us what he's doing. Maybe have a sketch or something just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah. All right, I can get all that for you guys.
Yeah, no problem.
And then just 3 little topics, additional topics was hunting season, which I saw the signs, so that's awesome. The little libraries were decorated and they were all ready to go for Fall Fest. And I am not sure if this was accomplished or not, but I know that new plant tags were being made with QR codes for the healing garden. Is that the case, Betsy?
We have Betsy had them all in the garden when I got there the other day. It was like a little fairy had come and put all the beautiful new QR tags out. I was so excited. And I'm happy to tell everybody that Mary Hanley's kids did one of the little libraries in the garden. Andrea's boys and their friend painted the one in the tot lot. And Kathy Goen and the St. John kids and a friend of theirs painted the little library here at the office. So if you all get a chance to see them, they're really cute. And I'm hoping Stacy and I can do a cute little, Andrea's, I think, supposed to do a write-up for the newsletter. So I was thrilled with that as well.
All righty. As for me, that is it. Does anyone have any questions?
No, I don't think so. Thank you very much, Mary. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, Dawn.
Okay, that brings it back to me again with the healing garden. Well, let's see, I did some notes on the healing garden. The plant swap was bigger than better than ever. If you saw it at the beginning of the day, the whole tent was full of plants, and at the end of the day, it was empty. So that's exactly the way it's supposed to work. I think there were some stragglers that Betsy has started to put back in the garden. So if we had any left over at all, they went back to good use. And then, like I said, Betsy finished the QR codes, which is wonderful. We have plant markers with now QR codes that you can go and put on your phone and find out what the plants are and all the information about them. And the best part of the day is I told you I've been working with 3 master garden ladies. And one of them was the potter, Jenny Woods. So she had a beautiful pottery set up there at the park, if you saw that. And then Allie came and helped me the Wednesday before, and we dug plants out of the garden. And then Emmy Nichols, who is of the Nickel Park fame, she came and helped on Plant Swap Day. And I said to everybody that knows about native plants, we put it in 3 years ago, and this year it does one thing the first year, one thing the second year, and it pops the third year. Well, this year it popped, and it was beautiful. And we were like, oh no, now what do we do? So I kept asking everybody and asking everybody and asking everybody. Well, these 3 young ladies are going to take it on as a project. And she contacted me yesterday and said what they're going to do is get together this Friday and propose a project to their Penn State representative to do a project on how to manage the healing garden for us. So I was beyond thrilled. Betsy and I are beyond thrilled because we can't take care of it ourselves. We're getting old and we need the young people in there to help us. But we're also going to need some brawn. So I'm sure I'll be calling on our pro volunteers, on our FSA volunteers. And I'm hoping the FSA volunteers, I've already talked to them about, we have to trim the hedge, which that's going to be, they've done it before, I understand. So that'll be an undertaking for the garden. And then one more great thing about the garden projects where Amy Carletti Noji is our bluebird queen. And I crowned her with her tiara, and I got her some more things to work on the houses with. She monitored them all year, kept track of the fledglings, cleaned them out at every fledging cycle, kept a record of all the birds that I've posted on Facebook. And this winter, she wants to replace the roofs on all the bluebird houses. And I found out that Troop 191, who came and helped us, are the ones that put up the bluebird houses. So we've come full circle with Troop 191, who came and helped us at the festival, and Troop 62, who was Owen, who put up the beautiful entrance to the garden. His troop came back and helped us, and we've had 2 groups of Boy Scouts that we didn't have help before come back.
Paul, I'm assuming we're the only ones left. I don't know, but you're on mute.
Sorry, what happened? I guess you can't host for some reason.
I have no idea what happened. I think the township building disconnected.
All right, we'll have to try and reconnect.
Yeah.
I'll give Jeff a quick call and see if he can tell me what happened.
Can I ask you a quick question? Oh, here they are.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, chewing up through all the ideas. And last year was our first festival. And we think we had just about 1,000 for the first festival. And this year, if I'm not mistaken, we think we had
1,500.
15?
That's the average
That's the average.
that I receive from other people.
Okay. Well, the compliments have just poured in on Stacy's page, on the Franklin Falls, on the Franklin page. I mean, we've had pages and pages of compliments for the things, and between the staff and the volunteers and the weather, I just don't even know what to say. I think we just overdid ourselves. So I don't know for next year where we're going to go with this, but I think we just were, I was just beaming. And I'm so proud of everybody. I'm so proud of the staff and the volunteers and the people that came. I talked to people in the post office the other day. I mean, and I just said, I can't, everybody was so not, there wasn't one unhappy. I didn't see anybody unhappy or disgruntled, or everybody just seemed absolutely thrilled. So
That's the way it should be.
so I don't know if anybody has anything else to add.
I do.
I was going to say, I think Jeff and Melissa and Stacy might have other things that we talked about.
I just wanted to recognize Dawn. She was our liaison between our park committee and the Township Board of Supervisors. And I know I tell her this, but I just want to express it to everyone else. She has been a joy to work with, always patient, great ideas. No, you are. It's the truth. So I know staff really appreciates all the hard time, all the work and that you put into this. So I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Well, I tell you, we all were, by Sunday, I think all of us were still in our jammies and
worked out. I'm just going to jump in real quick. I'm really happy with how everything turned out. We bumped up our marketing. We bumped up our handouts, getting everyone informed with Mary's beautiful map of the park and all the activities. We had 43 vendors there that were ecstatic to be out on the field, mixed in with our lovely information tables. David Payne, our library. But yeah, we offered a lot of different elements this year, which I think were very successful. So I'm very proud to work on this. Thank you for letting me do that.
Absolutely. I mean, and so many people worked on the project, and I want to, I always was just first of all, thank the staff, all the volunteers. It's just, it takes a lot of work to make it look that easy. And that looked very easy. So you did a lot of work and then people really enjoyed it. So everything went off real smooth and it was great. So thank you.
Well, and I just wanted to say that I spoke to Stefan earlier today, and I said, since he wasn't going to be here, I could really lavish him with praise, because he really went out and beat the bushes and got some money. So
yeah,
I was so proud of him and the sponsorships and the people that came in, and, people that didn't, Food Lion. I mean, who thought food? And so we had so many sponsorships and backing that it really made it possible for us to do as a small community. It's a very expensive and time consuming thing to put on. And with a handful of volunteers and a little tiny handful of staff.
and just a seed of an idea. That's what's really kind of neat about this. It was a kind of an offhand comment thought from Stefan, and it turned into a multi-year festival that gets bigger every year. It's very cool. It's very cool to see this done.
How did the wine I mean, remember we talked about the wine. I didn't see any problems, but I was just wondering.
Well, what I think, and I was tickled to death. First of all, the two local wineries were Paradox and 1723. And a lot of people know them. A lot of people are familiar with them. And I think the key is that this event runs from noon to 5. So by 4 o'clock, things are starting to calm down. And so that makes it it was a family day. It's not a blues night. It's not a go to the winery, so people had a glass of wine and there was absolutely no problem whatsoever, because it was just so smooth. But it was a day event. a day event with lots of games and lots of things for, everybody to do. And I think I didn't think there was a problem in the world with it.
Good event. Thank you for the update, Dawn. Donna.
Here we go. So we're going to turn this over to Paul Agassi. We're going to do the Historical Commission and Historical Architectural Review Board report. So Paul, can you take it away?
Thank you, Donna. So I want to actually start with a side note about the Fall Festival and report that my granddaughter, who's not quite 3, very much liked the hayride, the petting zoo, where she joined the chase after the escaped goose, the bouncy castle, and watching people ride the mechanical bull. And she was upset when when my wife basically said she had to leave after running around for 2 hours. So she had a great time. And at our table at the festival, we had several history brochures available, as well as historical maps with some of the modern roads identified on them so that visitors could figure out more easily where they lived in 1883 or 1873. And we also had a flyer for our upcoming November talk. We had a good number of folks stopping by, and we actually ran out of one brochure, the brochure on how the township came to be named after Benjamin Franklin. The Historical Commission met on September 3rd. At that time, we discussed the Churchill African Cemetery. Our gradual cleanup work, and it is very gradual, will most likely resume in October with a focus on controlling invasive plants. And I talked to Bob Magnus about that as well. And it's still going to be very small scale, but we're looking forward to getting started again in cooler weather. We have a new brochure out on surveying the Mason-Dixon line. And our brochures have been a minor success at 1723 Vineyard, which actually asked for a new batch a couple weeks ago. We have 2 talks I just want to quickly talk about. On September 12th, Dr. Cheryl Renee Gooch spoke on Hinsonville's Heroes. The talk was about the residents of Hinsonville, a former free Black community in Southeast PA up near what's now Lincoln University, and the people there who fought for the Union. The attendance was about 30 people. I was unfortunately not able to attend. And the Historical Commission is paying the honorarium for this talk. And then on November 12th at 7 p.m., Sarah Beth Kohat, who has written a book on covered bridges in the region and is a member of our Historical Commission, will speak on covered bridges in the Avon Grove area. And that talk will be held, as all of our talks are held, at the New London Township building. And that's November 12th again at 7 p.m. And that's my report. If
Thanks,
there are any
Paul.
questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
We ready for business?
We're ready for business.
Okay. Franklin Township Office of Park Mowing Contract Extension, AMC Group. I propose a motion. I make a motion that the board award the extension of the 2023 Township Office and Cross and Park Mowing Contract to KMC at the same unit prices as presented by Jeff Eastburn, requiring KMC to submit their performance bond and an insurance certificate to remain in compliance. Anybody second? Any discussion?
I just want to comment that the price hasn't gone up, which is a good thing. It's day of inflation. So, yeah, no, I'm planning to vote yes. I don't have any problems with that.
Great. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. Eastburn and I, good evening, everybody. Mr. Eastburn and I have been dealing with Bruce Massey, and I have my communication with him up on my laptop. And he has forwarded to us a maintenance agreement with certain information relating to the improvements that are going to be put in this roundabout project. Our concern, I think, should be focused on the maintenance agreement, because that maintenance agreement has legacy costs for which the township will be responsible. When we first began to deal with Bruce, with Mr. Massey, we were unsure as to what those improvements might be, because the maintenance agreement is drafted as you covering landscaping, sidewalks, signage, electric improvements. And as we discussed these concepts with him, we learned that there are no sidewalks. We learned that the landscaping is basically grass. And we're still trying to understand what, if any, signage might be put on site. So I asked Mr. Massey last week if he'd be kind enough to send me the maintenance agreement so that I could conform the legacy obligations for the township in that maintenance agreement. So we wouldn't have references to landscaping and sidewalks that are not important. I have not received that agreement. I can convert the PDF into a Word document if I wanted to push it. However, as I understand it, we're sort of on their schedule. So they're going to have to come back to us at some point and say, hey, what do you think of that maintenance agreement? And then I will re-forward him my email that says, we understand the reason why there's these legacy costs. And it's very similar to a traffic light. You know, they'll come in, they'll put it in, and then it becomes our responsibility. So we've created a dialogue. We've got a contact person. He sent us details right down to the formula of the grass seed mix that they're going to use. So I'm not concerned about getting information necessarily, or even about the program. But if they want the roundabout and they want us to cover what I'll call legacy costs, well, my advice will be to do that. That's the right thing to do. But the agreement should reflect the actual project. So that's where we are. And I'm happy to field questions.
Yeah, so the only comment I would have is, how you manage this crew, right? Because they could just get it to the point where they ever respond to us and then say, you need to sign this tomorrow. So I think it's just, you let it go maybe a little bit, but then you got to go after them, right, to get this thing bottomed out.
So, and I think I guess my question, I have two. First one is, if they're asking for something that doesn't exist, is it moot? Like, why does it need, like, if they say, well, you got to take care of the sidewalks and there's no sidewalks, why?
They could be used against us in the future. I mean, somebody could say,
Well, so you're meaning that if PennDOT in the future wants to put sidewalks in there, this contract prevents them from doing it. If there is no, they'd have to come with us with a new contract. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, well, not necessarily. I think that our Commonwealth has a form that they like in almost every
They just
aspect
use
of
the
their
same
business. And if you deviate from that form in any way, and we'll discuss this in a little bit regarding contribution agreement.
Yeah.
If you deviate from that form, it has to go up to the Office of General Counsel for approval of someone who is not what I'll call a ground level or mission level individual.
So they approve these documents at a very high level, and then they just distribute it out, and most people just sign it because, hey, there's no sidewalks. Why do we care if we were to maintain side? So my next question is maybe in the weeds, no pun intended. Can we choose what we put in the middle of that roundabout? So right now we're going to mow that round. This could be a terrible idea. I'm just throwing it out there. We have to mow it. We have to pay somebody to mow it. There are other things we could do in that roundabout that we wouldn't have to mow or do anything. We could brick it up. We could put a meadow in there, a little mini meadow in there. There's lots of options where we wouldn't have to do anything. So is it stipulated in the contract that, hey, actually, not only do we recommend this grass seed mix, you have to use grass or, I
don't think it's that strict, quite frankly. at some point, I think they might be concerned about sightlines and other things like that. But if the board thinks that they'd like to make sure that the agreement is fluid enough to permit some creative license, we can try to bake that in when they choose to respond to me, because it's been,
I mean, I guess I'm not asking you to ask them that. I just want to know if, as this is written, it's just a thought occurred to me now. Is there something that's prohibitive?
Yeah.
But I have everything now.
Yeah. So, see, I'd prefer to make a proposal and then let them come after it. I know this is PennDOT and they don't act like a company that I would normally deal with works, but it's just, I don't know. Sometimes, when you don't know, sometimes the hazy stuff can get you in trouble when you don't have the clarity.
Is there a time frame when this is supposed to be started?
I have never been given time.
We have not, again, I think between Guy and I, we've been proactive with PennDOT and we're waiting.
Yeah.
So we were both full of questions for Bruce.
But you have a good contact with Bruce. Can he answer your questions, or he just says, I can't help you here?
He could not answer the questions. He had to send it off to other people.
He probably doesn't know.
Yeah, it looks to me that it would provide for some different items if you wanted to do that.
Okay. I think it does.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So can we have some clarity? So can we go, what is our next step? We're going to wait a little bit, maybe a month or two, and then a month, 6 weeks, and then go back, or how much time do we give him?
Well, what I'll do is I'll let him know that we discussed it tonight and that our next meeting is the third Wednesday of October, and that we'd like to have some definition on direction and ask him for the courtesy of a response. Okay. And moving along, if we've gotten through that, we have a discussion of Lexington Point. Mr. Corbett of AECOM is here. And I'm going to turn it over to him unless he thinks he needs my input on it.
Thank you, Guy. I ask that you please jump in at any point that you feel appropriate. But there are, I guess, 3 specific items I wanted to discuss with the board, and of course, I'd be happy to assist with any other questions the board may have. But running down that initial list, the first item relates to a DEP permit renewal for the Lexington Point facility. I know it seems kind of strange. It's not even up and running and the permit's expired. Just a reflection of how this project has dragged on. DEP permits have a 5-year term. And we are now coming up on that. It will be expiring next year. DEP wants basically a 6-month lead time on getting those applications in. The developer's engineer, Ebert Engineering, has prepared a complete application package. We reviewed it, had comments. They changed it and have addressed all those comments. We think they've crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. At this point, the only open question is Township signature, and providing that to Ebert Engineering so they can then submit it to DEP along with the permit fee. So I would recommend that the board consider authorizing signature by Jeff to allow that to proceed.
Stan, just this is going on for, I kind of went through the history because it's in these documents.
Yes.
So it started, well, I think it started before this, but in 2006, we got a permit, right? Then we revised the design. Then we had to apply for a new permit. We got something in March 2020. I guess that's the one you're talking about, right? That was the one that we got. And then something.
Correct.
Then something looked like there was some changings in some requirements. And then we had to apply. We got another permit in July 2021. And so it's July, the July 2021 permit is not the one that we're basing it on. We have to go back to the March 2020 permit is the date that this all works from.
Your dates are correct, but the July 2021 was not a new permit. It was an amendment to the existing permit, so that didn't start the clock anew.
So that doesn't give you, okay, so that's why, okay, so it's an amendment. All right, and so you know, this has been a long saga, right? It's probably been a lot of your career has been the saga. So you've looked, there's a permit for the wastewater treatment plant that isn't even operational yet, right? And you looked at it and nothing's different from the initial permit that we put in March 2020. Is that what you're saying?
No, there are some differences, much is the same.
Okay,
But there are some differences, and those differences primarily relate to the as-built conditions out there. Despite any engineer's best effort, once you go out there and you actually construct things, reality gives us some minor deviations. In this case, the most substantial part of that is the actual drip field, placement of the drip irrigation tubing, the associated valves with that. The as-built conditions on that leave us slightly adjusted areas, which results in a slightly changed calculation of capacity. It's all still completely within the permit, within the capacity requirements, a very minor thing. But this permit goes through, identifies all of that, provides those additional calculations, which we've checked and verified, and essentially updates the prior permit with that information. The rest is the same, apart from the narrative describing where things stand today versus where things stood in 2025. I'm sorry, in 2020.
so you said that things are slightly changed, right? So for the better or for the worse, like is our capacity to do what the wastewater treatment better or worse than?
I think we lost 100 gallons per day, or give or take. It's but we were already a fair bit over the minimum that we needed to have, and we're still over the minimum that we need to have.
So we lost 100 gallons, but we're still above what we need
Correct.
to do. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it is. They still think that they're going to start this thing in the winter of 2025. Those are the dates that I saw. So I know that you lay out very nicely in the document, these things have to be done ahead of time, and we can talk about that in a few minutes. But I guess they have to have a target, right? So that's kind of what they're looking at.
Yeah, and I did have some coordination with the gentleman from Ebert Engineering working on that. I let him know that that's basically an unknown. I suggested that might be a reasonable thing to put in the permit, keeping in mind this implies no obligation to Kennett Township at all. It's just an FYI to DEP about where things stand. That was under the assumption that, you know, immediately the developer provides everything we need to know, and the board is comfortable making decisions. Very optimistic scenario, but that was the only straightforward way of trying to develop a date.
Well, I have another question, but it's not to do with the permit. Fine with the permit, but I do have another question. It goes back to the gentleman that we met with last month. And then we had asked you for some information on the other folks the other groups that they had looked at, and you provided that to us. But as you said in your letter, that it was hard to make a comparison because it wasn't apples to apples. So I think we went back and we talked about putting out some kind of request. I don't know what you call a request for some information so that we could compare apples to apples. I just didn't know what the status of that was.
Well, I think that's certainly something for the board to consider. Just a little bit of background on that. To your point, Donna, you're right. We don't have the information to do an apples for apples comparison. Typically, when a request for proposal, RFP, is issued, it will state, here's all the information we want, your qualifications, here's exactly the scope of work we want you to commit to. Here's all the things we want you to price. So we would get responses that there's going to be some variation, but that key information is going to be consistent across the board. And there's a comparison that can be made on that. In this case, the developer had just reached out to several operators, and I believe in maybe in a less specific fashion, just asked for their proposal to operate the treatment plant. EEMA, who is the developer's proposed contract operator, had the benefit of having initially their proposal submitted. We reviewed it. We asked for a bunch more information. There was some back and forth. So at this point, we have much more information on EEMA than we have on the other firms. we don't, the information we have on the other firms, I think perhaps most importantly, doesn't get into qualifications. Although, they are licensed operators and presumably have the capability to do all of this. As far as the cost component, it seems unlikely that either of the other two firms are going to be less expensive than EEMA. One of the two is substantially more expensive. The other one, it's a little bit hard to say precisely without the additional information. Their EMA is at $2,800 a month. The other operator's firm was over that at $3,000 and change a month, but they did include some additional services that EMA suggested they would have as sub-consultant costs. The trade-off, though, gets into what the township would be getting for that. EMA has an operator who's nearby, and their proposal says that they will be out to check on things every day. The other proposal that we saw from the firm that was closer in price indicated they would be out once a week, which is enough to cover the permit minimums. But of course, there's, I'm sure, less of a comfort level in the board's mind about the degree of oversight that's out there. So I know that doesn't, I'm sorry, I directly answer your question, Donna. I just wanted to give a little bit of flavor of the background for all of it.
So you're not gonna like this, but I feel like we're tap dancing, right? So I'd like to have that comparison. I think we're going to end up with the same place that you're talking about. I think we're going to end up with the group that we met. But we have to face the residents of Lexington Point, and they're going to come to us and say, okay, you're charging me whatever it is going to be a month. How'd you come to this number? Okay, well, we talked to this group and we liked them. We had some other, the developer had looked at two other companies, but we didn't feel like it was necessary to talk to them. That just seems irresponsible to me. It just seems like, all right, thanks a lot. I mean, I just think and I've been asking for this for a while. I just think, just do it. Just lay out. I think, as you said, EMEA, I don't know, is it EMEE, whatever they are. I think of EMEE, whatever they are, whatever their name is, right? Lay out what we want. We want them to come every day, at least in the beginning. So that's a good way to start. And just see what would this cost? And then when the Lexington residents come to us and say, well, how'd you pick this crew? And did you consider anybody else? We can say, yes, we sent out this RFP and we asked them to tell us we gave out the scope of work, and this is what they told us. And based on our work, this is definitely the best company that was available. I just think it helps us defend our position.
Yeah, just a couple of other thoughts to help the board consider that approach. One of them being as you may recall from the proposal and the draft contract that was generated for EMA, an operator would be hired for a period of a year. So and sometimes townships choose to change operators if they think there's a better option out there. So the board is only locked in for 1 year for whomever is initially selected. But if the board wanted to proceed with an RFP process, we do have another nuance in this case, in that Keystone Custom Homes will also be employing this firm. And I've, coordinated with Lamb McErlane. I would invite Guy to please jump in at any point, but it's Lamb's view that the township needs to basically get Keystone on board first with RFP issuance to make this workable. And I have no knowledge about, I've certainly not suggested that, so I can't speculate how that might go.
That's what it takes. Do it. But you hear why? I mean, it just seems, I just want to be able to say we did our due diligence. We compared apples to apples as best we could, because it's never going to be perfect. And we actually interviewed one in person. And this is, we feel good about this, as good as we could for being the first time. And if Lexington Point doesn't want to do it, I'd like to understand why. What are they afraid of?
Well, I'm going to weigh in because Stan and Vince and I and Jeff have exchanged some emails about this, and I, in no particular order of importance, except for my first statement. There's no reason why you need to put out an RFP under the law. but there's no reason to prevent you from doing that. So to the extent that your legal team is ambivalent to the concept, in other words, if you want to do it, that's fine. My second thought is comment is when we initially looked at it, I went online to see if I could find a simple RFP for these types of services, and I used an AI function to do that, and I found a simple one. So it wouldn't be complicated for us to do that. Number three, in discussing the timeline with Jeff, this isn't going to come into fruition until the first quarter of next year, maybe at the earliest. So we have time to do it. And there's no statutory scheme which obligates you to accelerate it, or you do it in the timing that you like to do it. But most importantly, I guess, is Stan's comment that we feel that because Keystone ultimately is a stakeholder in the selection, that they should be okay with that. And so if the board would like us to reach out for Keystone and tell them that this is what we'd like to do and get them on board, we're happy to start doing that tomorrow.
Well, once again, we should get a nod or whatever we have to do with the board, but I think it's how you present it to Keystone too. We liked the company. The consensus of the board, we didn't vote on anything, was that so it's not to go against the recommendation. It's more to say that we've done our due diligence and to gather some more information to support what that decision would be. I mean, you know what I mean? I think it's how you present it. It's not like we hated who you gave us, so we want to start all over again. It's just that we just want to do our due diligence. We want to make sure that we have that apples to apples comparison, and it will help us when we meet with the residents and explain to them how we got to this point. Okay. So but once again, the board has to agree. It's just, I'm just one of five.
So if we put out an RFP process, we're essentially opening up this work to bid again. Okay, sorry. Yes. So I'm trying to.
I hate to put it, I'll interrupt. I hate to put it that way.
Okay.
Because I think what I'm hearing is, in order to be responsible stewards of a process that's going to cost your constituents money, you want to make sure you get the right person.
100%. So I get that. I guess my point would be, in this process, we would expect to get I can't remember the acronym, EA, yeah. They would have to participate in this again, or we would just accept what they already have and we would ask for others.
So I think what they gave us is a good starting point. I don't need to talk to them again.
Yeah. So I guess my question, the question I have is, we're missing information on what Keystone has done already. Talking to these other folks, what are we missing that would make you feel better?
We can't compare them.
Well, I can't. Okay.
Yeah, of course, we weren't involved in any of the communications Keystone had with these operators, but they have provided all the information that they received from the outreach they had in whatever form that happened. And the information that they got varies. As I mentioned, the RFP process would allow for, typically we target some consistency so we can do a clear comparison.
Sure.
It doesn't appear that they use that approach because there's differing scopes. And again, I think one of the things that I think is very important is there's no information about qualifications, which is very critical. We don't have any write-up for either of the other two firms about their qualifications. EEMA has, although there was some back and forth involved, EEMA has provided a lot of information that provided references we can check, and it's all good information. We don't know any of that about the other firms.
Okay. And I guess the other question, so I don't disagree with you, but is there a piece of information that you're specifically looking for that you'd say, okay, I got that, now I feel comfortable? Like, is there
I just want to be able to compare this. I want to have a table that I can compare this way. And once again, I'm not trying to blow up with Lexington Point. I just want to feel good about
No, I
the
get
decision.
it. I get it. I'm just trying to understand what if there's a specific point or something that you're interested
Well,
in.
and how deep of a dive? I mean, to get the information that Donna wants, are you gonna have to do Do you need the references?
So that I would let that to stand. What I would be comparing is, okay, I think we want them to be there every day.
Yeah.
So what would be the scope would be to
Yeah.
be there every day? I'm not an expert here, Stan, you're better than I am, but whatever, EMEA put down, those are the things that I would like to like mirror from those other two companies.
I mean, I think if we were to assist with writing an RFP for you, it would very closely mirror what we ended up getting from EMA, because we, in the course of the review back and forth, we told them this is all the information we'd like to see. Here's all the details we'd like to see. We now have that. So we would essentially be asking for other firms to replicate everything that they've given the township. And yeah, I would recommend that does include references.
And if they choose not to do it, then they're out, they choose not to do it, right? Yeah.
Correct. And I guess just one thing I wanted to point out to the board, this was in the memo, but just to be clear, one of the other two firms located out of West Grove, C. Price and Sons, is led by a gentleman who used to work for our company. So I do know him well, and I can certainly speak to that, but out of professionalism, I would prefer to be objective and just go with what's written down there. Yeah.
We can make this happen. I mean, is the board interested in this information, or or is the board on the other hand just ready to say we like this company that Lexington Point has suggested and that we met with?
I'm concerned about having to say to the people that live there, you know, it's going to be a lot of money, and we better be prepared to have backup. And I like the idea that we would have backup to say, these are why we made the decisions. And it sounds smarter to have those at hand when we go up and tell them.
That's even.
Well, and I think if you don't get the information back from somebody else, then it makes it clear, at least you put it out there and said, you know, we did our best, and that's our due diligence.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think the other piece of this that's important that you bring up is it's our decision. We're going to live with this. We're going to live, you know, even if it is just for a year, we're going to live with this. So we should have some involvement. So I certainly don't have a problem with trying to get some information from these other two organizations or whomever we identify. It doesn't seem like a hard ask either, right?
So
Like,
they must do
I don't know why.
time.
Yeah.
It's gonna take somebody a little bit of work to do. None of this stuff's easy. But I have another question for Stan. So we really did like the other company, right? Do we have a chance of losing them? I mean, is there,
Yeah,
I know we don't have a time, legally, we don't, when there's no time, but do you have a sense that the other company's like, you know, okay, you know, we have 16 other people wanting to sign us up? I just want to get the other side.
I don't have a sense of that now. I mean, if we're you know, if we're able to work with Keystone and open up the RFP process in the course of that, we can certainly reach out to EMA and of course keeping Keystone informed as we need to do to just verify where they stand with that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's get back to the motion here.
So just so that I understand the direction, you'd like your consultants to gin up a bid spec and so that you can secure information from potential folks in the industry to consider for the operation and maintenance of Lexington Point. Is that
I mean,
fair?
I would be okay with those other two companies, but if you want to make it broad, I don't know how difficult that is, but I know we already, Lexington Point
It's
already.
not. We can do
Okay.
whatever we want. We can put an ad in the paper, or we could call up those two resources and say, hey, the board's interested. He's inviting you to present this information. Would you like to do that? Very similar as if you were going to do our accountants, legal, engineering search. You could invite
My thought was that's where we would go, is we would just say, hey, we had these other two guys on the hook. Can we just get this information from them?
Is that?
Yeah, and just to editorialize a little bit on that, there aren't a lot of operators around in general. It's not a huge field. There are some others that work in the area, and I won't be specific for obvious reasons, but I'm not sure they're ones you would want to send an RFP to.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I guess I was a little shocked, not shocked, surprised when we started talking about RFPs, when I thought, okay, well, we can just call these other guys and say, we're trying to compare apples to apples. Can you help us out with some information? I think that would suffice. To your point, it's not like there's 100 different folks doing this kind of work. There's a handful. And it sounds like we already talked to the majority of that handful. So why don't we just do that, right? Without putting an ad in the paper or, you know, no. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Great. So, back to the original, I have a motion here to read, for the renewal application. So I will just read it as it is. We do remember what we talked about before we.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors complete the Part 2 Water Quality Management Permit Renewal Application for the PADEP permit number 1519407A-1, prepared by Ebert Engineering Incorporated and dated September 10th, 2024, as recommended by ACOM, in Stan Corbett's letter dated September 11th, 2024. Can I have a second? Okay, Don, thank you. Any further discussion on this permit? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. All right, thank you, everybody. Good conversation. So now we're moving on to a subject that I thought we had put to rest a while ago. I'm surprised to see it back up again.
It's almost there. So the next item on the solicitor's report is a solar ordinance update. I had forwarded the solar ordinance to the Chester County Planning Commission a while ago. And when Jeff asked me, hey, what's the status? Figure out what's going on with that solar ordinance. And I said, what solar ordinance? And he said, no, I'm just kidding. I said, yeah, I'll do that. I know it's languished. And I called and they said, we have no indication that you submitted it. And I said, well, here's the date I submitted it. And they said, well, did you use our portal? And I said, no. And they said, you need to use the portal. You just can't deliver things anymore. So I filled out on September 10th, something called an Act 247 County referral.
Okay.
And the Act 247 County referral is in your packet. It contained the solar ordinance and I filled in the blanks and it was submitted. And we can expect a turnaround in roughly 30 days. And I'm hoping to have their response by your October meeting so that you could at least see what, if any, comments they had relating to it.
Okay.
That's the update.
Gotta love the portal.
Unreal.
I blame myself, but that's where we are. We'll get it through.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The next item, the MS4 update, I don't blame myself. I have been pushing for some response from PennDOT, which made sense. As you know, we have already given them an agreement, which they then returned and said, well, this isn't in a form that we want. I started to receive emails from Mr. St. Clair, and from the Office of General Counsel on the MS4 template. And it's obvious that even the Londonderry Township template that we had been shown as the model hasn't been approved yet. So what I said to Daryl, and I just said, look, we need to move this in the cloud. Just send me what you think your organization would accept. And he did that and I filled it in and I want to read his email to you so that you know what we're trying to do. He says, Guy, go ahead and complete these. So I did and I sent them off. Just realize the agreement is not approved as form agreement with the Office of General Counsel. So minor risk there. So what I'm suggesting to the board is that I can only negotiate with somebody who gives me terms to negotiate with. I'm recommending to the board to execute another contribution agreement and another resolution so I can send it up to Mr. St. Clair and say, here, have this approved by Office of General Counsel we'll get the vendor our $25,000 and we'll have complied with our sediment reduction in the Chesapeake watershed. I made a point of going through the form he sent me, and the form that he sent me has all of the important clauses that we had discussed before. For example, reimbursement in the event that the project isn't entered into. The contributing party may elect at its sole discretion to make additional authority funds available for the project. However, the contributing party shall not be responsible for enforcing long-term operation maintenance of the improvements constructed by the project outside of the contributing party's municipal boundaries. So this form is fine with me as to the most important concerns that the board have. I don't like to bring contracts to agencies and say, you know, I don't really know whether the other side's going to agree to it, but I think this is an exception. So I'm making the recommendation that you do that.
Okay, you go for, I just have some questions about the contract.
I'm sorry?
I have some questions about it.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so, just, I know we talked about this before, but we talk about, in this one, it's in the reimbursement section, it's on page 3. And it talks about the cost of the project could cost more. And that, if I read it right, I just want you to make sure that I'm reading it right. But in order for that to happen, we, as the contributor, would have to agree to the change order, right? They just can't hike the price up.
Correct.
Okay. That's what I want to make sure of. And then, right now on page 4, we're committing, based on this contract, assuming there's no change orders increasing the price, to a maximum of this $25,975.95.
Correct.
Right, so that's what we're committing to pay. Do we pay up?
Period. That's it. And if you want to buy more, great.
Right.
But you don't have to, and they can't force you to.
And then this based on, this gives us how much sediment? I know there's a paper that Ron Reagan put together, but is there anywhere in here to say how much sediment how much?
There's nothing, there's nothing in this one, and there's no sediment amount listed in any contribution agreements.
So how do we go?
This contribution amount was calculated by a per ton or per pound dollar, I think of $1.19 or something. I don't have those the monetary figures in front of me. I don't know, I don't remember anymore how the $25,000 and change breaks down per pound.
Do we have that anywhere? Like it was
We do, and
Okay.
I'd have to find it, and I'd have to tell you what it is.
Okay, but it's documented, so I
It
guess
is.
it's just a document. The numbers wouldn't mean anything to me anyways, but it's just the fact that they're documented somewhere.
They are.
That PennDOT's committed to, there's been some kind of agreement. And I know,
That's correct.
I know Ron has explained to us that he can't predict how the system's gonna work. They can only estimate. So it's not like it's in gold, but at least it gives you a sense, because it should cover what our I think we need 10,000 and I think it's this could give us maybe 13,000. So there is a leeway in there. Okay, great. That's all I have. Thanks.
All right. And again, I apologize for this dragging along, but I now at this point, it's like pushing a rope. It's, it's difficult to do.
So we're gonna propose this motion, and again, is this any indication that they're gonna respond to this, or is it just, hey, we gotta try again?
I'm going to send it up as
Just see what
soon as I get fully signed back and say, hey, we're done. What's the next step?
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to hope for the best.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me when we deal with these kinds of organizations, that when we initiated this conversation, it was, hey, you guys need to come to a decision quick because we're running out of time and there's a clock and you have to agree to this. And we're like, well, maybe we can wait a month, and here we're about a year later plus, and we're still doing this.
So on September 9th, just so that you know the level of effort Mr. St. Clair is putting in, on September 9th, he writes a letter to legal, a person by the name of Kristen Kayer. Kristen, and he forwarded this to me. Kristen, the review of the Londonderry MS4 agreement for use as the template has held up another municipality's agreements for months now. Your comments on Londonderry have been with that municipal consultant since August 6th. Can you propose some options? I was unable to send Guy the new template as you had it locked down. So we're making an effort to unlock these things.
Okay.
And I'm getting messages forwarded that maybe I shouldn't have gotten, quite frankly.
It
but
sounds like they're getting a little snippy with each other.
Maybe.
All right, well, let's get something done. All right, so let me read the motion. I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve the contribution agreement with PennDOT and related resolution 2024-08 as presented by our solicitor, Guy Donatelli. May I have a second? Thank you, Betsy. So any further discussion? Okay, without hearing any, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. All right, so that brings us to the end of our meeting. Is there anything else that we want to discuss on the solicitor's report, or is that?
Mr. Eastburn and I have been discussing 3327, the current status of that, and he had mentioned to me that the board might be interested in hearing something about that. I can give you a little update. I can give you a little update if you wish, or we can.
Please do.
So on August 22nd, we reached out, your code enforcement officer reached out for Precision Fiber with an enforcement notice. And that enforcement notice lays out the issues that our code enforcement officer has with that property, has given that property owner until September 22nd, 2024 to comply or to seek some sort of an appeal from the ZHB. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to diary my calendar so that I give a call to Mark Gordon on or about September 22nd and ask him, hey, listen, what's going on? Was there going to be compliance, or are we going to be taking this thing to the magisterial district judge? So that's basically the timeline. You can expect something towards the end
I
of that.
thought this was resolved. I thought he took all the cars and trucks and.
He
Are they all back?
evidently there is still commercial vehicles, equipment, and material being stored at the property when such use is not permitted by the village or commercial zoning districts it's in. So failure to secure a permit prior to the change of use of this land is a violation of the zoning ordinance. So it looks like there's still a violation.
Okay, so I think Jeff has an update for you, because there was an update in our book.
I will say a vast majority of the vehicles, the work trucks have been removed. There is like an old army.
Yeah, he replaced.
There's an old army surplus truck out there with a camper. Now, it's my understanding through Mark that Chris Pacillo may be submitting a zoning hearing board application for the building, and then may or may not have one of his employees living in that house. But
I mean, I thought that was a pretty close to condemned building. So how is someone living in there?
well, I don't know the answer to that,
All right.
but he still has, Chris is still talking about, I just don't want it to be a surprise to the board if it happens. You know, he's still thinking about the option about taking that structure down. So we're waiting.
I just feel like we're being jerked around. I just like, okay, so this has been going on for, it feels like forever, right? But what has it been, a year, two? I don't know. Like, just bring a plan. I mean, he just won't do it, right? It's because
and I will say this in defense of Mark and the staff, we have been incredibly patient and offered to help numerous times. So again, Guy's analogy, we're pushing that rope uphill, so.
All right.
So Guy, any, I hate litigation. I hate this stuff, but what do we do? Just kind of let him, just let it go? I mean, what do you suggest?
So we're talking about 323. My recommendation is you let your code enforcement officer handle. I mean, you have a subject matter expert who's reporting tomorrow to Jeff a lot. And, he calls me, I approve the violation notice, right? So he's engaging all of us in his efforts. So I would let him do what he needs to do. And I would put whatever pressure he thinks is necessary on the property owner to achieve zoning compliance, and we'll stay on top of it. That's my recommendation.
What if it gets to a situation where he moves stuff out, then he moves it back in, and then you start the whole process over again, he moves it out?
All I have to say about that is chickens and goats.
Yeah.
So we had an issue like that before. And we know how to handle that, and that will ultimately result in money that individual puts, or that organization puts itself at risk of having to pay. And we know how to do that. So I would say we'll just continue to apply that gentle pressure that we have under our ordinances, and eventually we will secure an agreement to comply with your zoning ordinance, or he'll take the proper action to change or get the proper approvals for the use to which he'd like to put the property. Chickens and goats is now going to be my standard response.
Good one. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for God before we move on to public comment?
Stan, did you have a comment?
I did, yes. If,
Okay.
there's one additional item for Lexington Point that I think may be of interest to the board that I wanted to share.
Sure.
For some time, there's been a question about what the developer is telling prospective homeowners out there about what the rates are. Just this afternoon, I was able to get copies of the disclosure that they are giving to those homeowners, from Mickey Thompson. And I've copies here, and Betsy, you'd be so kind to pass them down, please,
Thank
for the
you.
board
I
to look
appreciate
at.
that.
But I think most significantly on here, there's some language on here that I'm not sure makes sense to me, but most significantly, they're telling prospective homeowners that the future fees will range from about $1,800 to $2,800 per household per year. I think that's a good range. I don't think they're going to be at the bottom end of it, but other than that, it's a good range. So they are, I think, giving the homeowners fair notice to the extent that the information is known right now.
Yeah, but, you come with the last bullet. We're pursuing other alternatives, which they're not. It's us.
Yeah,
And this will reduce costs significantly, not likely, but I just think I'm glad there's a number, right? So I'm glad the first time we see a resident and say whatever it is, right? They're not like in shock, but it's just I feel like they might have given them some false hope that this is going to be much lower than what it is, which it's not true.
Yeah, I have no idea what they meant by that last bullet.
What's
point
the
either.
third bullet mean? Once the municipal agency takes over the facility, you will pay only the rate paid by all other sewer users served by the agency, both inside and outside of Lexington Point community. I guess that's saying if other people pipe into that sewer system.
Yeah, that's just written towards a generic situation. Let's just say Lexington Point was part of a larger public sewage system that Franklin Township owned. This would make sense in that context. That's not the case here, though.
But it's misleading again because there is nobody else, and
Yes.
but I mean, we would have written it different, right?
But
If we were
yes.
right.
The important
But
thing is
there's a number.
Yeah, they have a number. Okay. Yes. Thank you. This is great. Thank you for sharing this. I appreciate that. All right. Well, with that, I will open the floor to public comment. This public comment can include comments on anything attendees may like to share. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer in the township.
My name's John Arbrock, Franklin Township resident for 45 years, supervisor for 10. And I followed the whole Lexington Point thing up till now. In the last meeting, I did make some comments about the RFQ and the liability the township would have but not doing it. But in listening to what's happening lately here and the discussion tonight, I just don't think that it's practical to do this RFQ process now. Why? Because Franklin Township doesn't own the plant. You haven't been provided, you're not the owner, you're not the requester. So Lexington Point developer owns the plant, and I think he has a right to do what he's doing. I think if he tried to do it now, it'd probably really complicate things. So my recommendation is to accept what he's got. When the thing's finally turned over to you, run it that way. But at that time, when you're the owner, then you can initiate an RFQ process to validate the cost and make a change if not, if appropriate. The RFQ process is not a complicated thing. I mean, basically, you have to prepare a scope of work, which really indicates what material and what services you want. Then you need to pre-qualify the bidders. And then you need to issue the RFQ. And sometimes there are bidders meetings, but they come in and they ask questions to clarify things in the quote in the RFQ. Then you receive the quotes on a certain date specified. The next process is an important one. That's the bid analysis. Essentially, a detailed analysis of each bidder and how he complies with your scope of work in a spreadsheet. And that really defines the whole process, because then you can see what each supplier is supplying, what he's short on, what he's on, and what the costs are. And that really is the basis for the contract award. And at that point, you award it to the appropriate contract. It's a complicated process. It's not simple. The scope of work would take you a while, and you need the help of your engineer to prepare it, because you really don't know all the things you need to put into it. So I would say you're probably gonna have to wait, just my opinion.
Yeah, I respectfully disagree with you. I think what we'll do is, as we talked about, is a hybrid. It's not about a public announce. It's going to be those two companies, and we use the EMEA as the scope of work.
On the plus side, listening to the proposed plant operator in that meeting was about a month ago. I thought they're fully qualified to do exactly what you want. They have high qualifications, so I don't think you'd have any problem with them at all. I've have some experience on my own commissioning a large wastewater treatment plant, so I understand the process and the technical aspects of it, and they had all the right answers. So I don't think you have any problem there. The plus I heard is that they're going to attend the plant daily, and for a brand new plant, that's appropriate. Because a small plant that's got small volume like this can get out of control pretty quickly if you don't attend it regularly. But over time, I don't think you're going to need that. I think once you get the plant lined up with most of the load on it, you could probably reduce that based on observed operation behavior. So that's really all I got, I think. See if I wrote anything else down. No, I didn't. Anyway, I'm sorry I was not able to attend the Franklin Township Festival. Well, I spent the week before rehabbing an old shed with my son, and overworked this old body and really wasn't up to standing up and walking around all day long. I was disappointed that I couldn't go there, but everybody seemed to have a good time. I'm looking forward to seeing the pictures. So my son went down there, and he thought it was real good. So, and we heard good reports from everybody I talked to. So congratulations to the board for a great event. So,
All right. Thanks, John.
Okay.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it. All right. So with that, is there any other public comment?
Yeah, I would just like to say one quick thank you to Stacy. All those brochures, maps, and everything else that we had at the Historical Commission table were printed out for us by her, and the Historical Commission really appreciates it. And if anybody has a picture of my daughter running after the goose, I'd love to have it.
Oh, man, I want to see that too. I want to see that too. Thanks, Paul.
All right, good night.
All right, good night, Paul. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. All right, so I make,
Second your motion.
I know, who's gonna do it? So I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at looks like 8:52? 8:57? 9:57, 9 o'clock? 8:59. What the hell's going on with me? All right, can I have a second? Betsy. All right, any discussion? All right. Motion carries, all in favor, aye. All right, motion carries 4-0. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Have a good night, guys.
Bye-bye.